Ladies and gentlemen, fellas, welcome back as we are going to take a first look at the week 2 salaries. They just dropped literally just now. I've been looking at like the PFF, like routes run, player profiles, snaps, and all that to see what the usage was from week 1, but the exact salaries I haven't looked at. So I know obviously what the players have done in week 1, not to the fullest extent because I'm recording this on Monday. It's going to release on Tuesday morning. But this is the first time I'm taking a look at the actual salaries, and we're going to build a lineup. We'll build a cash-based lineup. What the fuck is cash? I don't play that, but we'll build a cash-based lineup, and we'll pivot it into a GPP lineup throughout this video. If you have a second of your time right now, hit the like button, and let's dive into it, starting with the quarterback position. So at the quarterback position, I open it up, and we have Kyler Murray, the most expensive, so there's no Mahomes on this slate, and you get Kyler Murray to be the most expensive, which makes sense. 5 touchdowns last week. The guy pops off. He has the rushing touchdown. He throws basically 2 to Cousins and 2 to Hopkins. He goes absolutely nuclear. His actual points are not in here yet, but 289 yards, and he has the 4 passing touchdowns, 20 yards on the ground, and a touchdown. Look at it. Just easy. Started to continue what you saw last year from Kyler Murray of being the record-setting fantasy scorer at the quarterback position through the first 10 weeks. So Kyler's interesting, but we scroll down as he's obviously expensive. Russell Wilson has a great game, throws 4 tuds, 1 to Everett. Metcalf, a couple to Lockett, that amazing catch from Lockett, the bomb to Lockett. He's going to look interesting against Seattle, who just got torched by that Arizona team last week. Josh Allen comes off a bad week, but it was a tough matchup against that defense. Another tough secondary that he'll be facing this week that held Mac Jones in Seattle pretty down, but a much more explosive offense for Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen will be a really good GPP play this week, and all those guys, as they were highly owned last week, burnt a ton of people. People will see another tough matchup in the secondary this week and maybe shy away from it, especially when Russ pops off for a similar price point, especially when Tom Brady is here. He's a statue, though, but he still threw a ton of touchdowns in that Dallas game. Different defense in Atlanta, but still not a great defense, 6,900. This is where I wanted to get to. These 2 quarterbacks right here at the basically exact price points, Herbert and Prescott. There's a chance that Prescott and the Cowboys are massively owned because they probably should be. That's where you can easily pivot to those Justin Herbert, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen stacks, run it back with 2 of the receivers on Dallas. And I'll be interested to see because Dallas lost Michael Gallup. I'll be interested to see Amari's price point. Is it in the 7K range or the upper 7K range? That's where I expect it to be. For CeeDee Lamb, I expect it to be right around 7K flat. And what do they do with Cedric Wilson, who ran the routes? Noah Brown ran no routes on Thursday night. Cedric Wilson ran over 20 routes once Michael Gallup was hurt. He should be, in all honesty, around a $5,000 receiver, if not more. Gallup is basically, that's the role that he's going to be filling in for, is Michael Gallup's role. So I'll be interested to seeing if those prices came. My guess is that Cedric Wilson's hasn't. My guess is Cedric Wilson, we could probably get him at like 4,200. And then my guess is that those other guys are probably going to be in the low 7K range when they should really be high 7K range guys between CD and Amari. So these guys are standing out right away. Like, I want to put Dak Prescott and I want to put Herbert in. We'll see what they look like. Obviously, Dak faced a lot of pressure, looked great. Now we'll get Zach Martin probably back from COVID. Jalen Hurts, this can't be right. 6,500. Wasn't he $6,400 last week? He was $6,400 last week. I don't think they added in that game yet. No. So Jalen Hurts was $6,400 last week, I'm pretty sure. And now he goes up $100 after playing the best game of his career. That first half that he played was amazing. The second half's not going to look as good, although it was still good. Still was producing points for you. Didn't have as many rushing yards, but they didn't have to do anything. It was nothing. Their defense was had 5 sacks on Matt Ryan in the last 2.5 drives for the Falcons, forcing 2 3-and-outs. They were just getting to him nonstop. They only put up 6 points, Atlanta. So not much was had to be done by Jalen Hurts, but he still pops off. He finds a touchdown to Goddard to 2 of his receivers. Quez Watkins runs in another one. He has 60-plus yards on the ground. Absolutely smashed the over if you took it on Prize Picks of 40.5 rushing yards where it opened, even if you took it later in the day at 50.5 or later in the week. So Hurts early on looks like the guy that I want. I'm going to put him in right now because he was a great cash quarterback last week, and he basically had 4 touchdowns with the mobile upside. We can keep going. Stafford's here, but I'm not going to him with the mobile upside of Hurts right there. Same exact thing can be said for Tannehill and Kirk Cousins. And Jameis sees the price hike of $900. Jameis was my second highest owned quarterback. Him and the Deontay Harris plus Deontay Harris and Alvin Kamara stacks really kept me in it. It made me not lose money last week, actually profit money due to those stacks coming through late for us. But Jameis Winston here at 6,100, I'm just not interested for cash perspectives. If we're talking GPPs, yes, Matthew Stafford is going to stand out. Yes, obviously Dak and Herbert are going to be my favorite 2 quarterbacks of the entire week. I already know that. It's early. I know they're going to be chalky, but I can build unique stacks. I'll probably triple stack Dak if I really want to, if we can get a cheap Cedric Wilson. But we can talk about that when we build the GPP lineup in momentarily. The rest of these quarterbacks, Mayfield, Lawrence, these don't stand out. Lawrence against Denver. Jalen Hurts just screams out the obvious cash play. Joe Burrow had a nice week. He had a couple tuds and over 300 yards. The game went to overtime to get him there. We'll see what happens with T. Higgins. Matchup against Chicago this week. I think that's fine. You just saw what Chicago got done with Matthew Stafford. Just play action passing, dominated Chicago. Scheming, dominated Chicago. We'll see what they can stir up this week. Atlanta gets the cheap Matt Ryan. This is another one that's at least interesting here. Another mobile quarterback in Tyrod Taylor. We took the over 206 rushing yards or passing yards, over 209 passing yards, depending on when you got it. And he did that in the first half. He had 291 yards. He ended up throwing for a touchdown, and he also added some 40 rushing yards on the ground. So you can get to Tyrod Taylor, but it's not even like it's a big price difference. Like he's 5,400 or 5,500. If Tyrod was 52 and Hurts was, let's just say, 7K, then yeah, it's a big difference. But if it's a $900 difference, I can make up for that by going defense or a cheaper tight end. I would say cash quarterbacks for me stand out as either Dak, Herbert, or Hurts, and I would rank it right now because of price point. I would probably rank it Dak, Hurts, and Herbert. We'll see, though, if this difference of $300 matters for Hurts. Otherwise, it's going to be just going to Dak. Like, we could put Dak in here right now and see if we can actually afford him in cash and go from there, because I just feel fantastic. Even a matchup against the Chargers secondary, I feel fine with that. You saw parts of that game last week. Washington was doing what they wanted. This is clearly a totally difference in terms of offense. Wide receiver position now, or running backs, we skipped through accidentally. Running backs here is Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, Kamara, the guys who should be up top are up top. Kamara in that last game, you didn't even get to see him get unleashed. Like, he only ran 17 routes. He didn't play basically the entire final quarter as both teams pull their starters in that final quarter. Kamara gets 4 targets, has that little pitch pass, pop pass that goes for him, but only 17 routes. In a game where they actually have to throw more, and Jameis throws 5 touchdowns even though he has 150 yards, where they actually have to throw more, you're probably going to see him start to run 30 routes. The team leader on this team was Marquez Callaway with 21 routes run. You're going to start to see a lot more routes run. This is a run-first team, which also, obviously, as a running back, benefits Alvin Kamara, who, if you look at this game, had 20 attempts. So he ends up seeing 20 rushing attempts and 4 targets in basically 3 quarters of play. 24 opportunities in 3 quarters of play. This is Alvin Kamara's team with no Michael Thomas so much. So it's really tempting. Last week, I played Kamara and CMC in my main lineup on single entries. It's really tempting to go to Kamara here for $1,100 of a difference. I always want to try and put McCaffrey in there first. He had 187 total yards, McCaffrey. He had over 20 rushing attempts in this game. He only ran 22 routes, but saw 9 targets, a team high 9 targets, and a team high 89 yards. So he's the leading receiver in terms of usage and overall production. So a bad game for McCaffrey, 187 yards. A bad game for him got us 27 points. That seemed like a bad game because they didn't find the end zone, and he just didn't pop off for a 100-plus yard bonus in either passing or receiving. He just missed it with 98 rushing yards because he slid down instead of getting the extra couple of yards to stay in bounds like a smart player would. So we'll start with Dak Prescott and McCaffrey, 2 of the highest scoring players at their positions last week, if we can actually make this work. I'm thinking trying to get Kamara as well is going to be too much. Like, if we put Kamara in here as well, it's $4,000. Once you pick a defense, you probably have like $5,000 per position. I think we're still going to get enough value because it's just week 2 that these prices are not going to be efficient. Derrick Henry, no interest. Nick Chubb, 2 touchdown game, looked great, but still no interest at these price points. Eckler starts to become interesting, probably more of a GPP play. I believe he wasn't targeted at all in the passing game this past week. Let me check on that. Yeah, so Austin Eckler, he ran 26 routes and no targets. I think that's just a fluky thing. The fact that he ran 26 routes is great usage for a running back. Jonathan Taylor looked good, but again, no real 3-down responsibilities. Did see a screen pass. This is the guy that I want. I would like to see Joe Mixon. So Joe Mixon, if we add Joe Mixon in at $7,000, which is still a fair price point comes up from last week, but not even by $1,000. We have $4,300 left. I think we can make that work with a cheap defense. Clearly, we can maybe find a value wide receiver, but Joe Mixon is definitely worth breaking down in terms of his overall usage last week. It was all the Joe Mixon show. He played 54 of 69 snaps. The game went into overtime, if you recall. He had a massive day on the ground, 127 yards and a touchdown. He had 29 carries. He ran 18 routes. You would like to maybe see him run a little bit more routes. P. Ryan only ran 6, though, but he had 4 targets on those routes. All those 18 routes ended up being the 3rd most on the team. So Joe Mixon's usage is insane. Obviously, the game went to overtime and almost went like the entire full time for a tie, but Joe Mixon still seeing over 30 opportunities week 1 is great. And now the price point doesn't really come up all that much. The matchup against Chicago, we saw Darrell Henderson have a really nice game, and now you have a 3-down back coming in there. If we start to just look more through the running backs and just discuss them, Sanders' price point comes up, quietly had like a 130-yard total day. Love to see that. James Robinson only had 36% of the running back carries week 1. Big concern. Najee Harris right here at 6,300 is going to be a massive bounce back player, potentially a lower owned player, although I think people will be sharp enough to it. We'll see Vegas play tonight. I'm recording this on Monday again, but I put a tweet out. You can check me out on Twitter at SalvageDFS, putting a ton of tweets out. He played all 58 running back snaps. Two other snaps were taken by Minkah Fitzpatrick, the safety, and the kneel down for the running backs, but all 58 running back snaps were given to Najee Harris. 16 rushing attempts. He ran 30 routes, which is fantastic for a running back, 3 targets, and he was used out wider in the slot 6 total times, 3 each. So that's amazing usage. 19 opportunities is basically the floor for this guy. It was a tough matchup on the ground. He didn't get in the end zone. He got tackled like on the 1-yard line. 19 opportunities week 1. The only running back to touch the ball. That might be the low point all season long for Najee Harris. 6,300 is tempting to put in the flex spot. If I pull this up here, we will have $4,000 left to spend on a player. Najee Harris, we can leave that there and see what that ends up getting us. It might be a little bit too much money. We might have to pull Najee or I don't really want to pull Mixon with that workload, but they're going to see probably similar workloads. Zeke is here at 6,200. That feels great. The fact that I already have Dak, I don't really need the whole team. but Zeke in tournaments feels fantastic. We saw last week that Zeke saw the majority of the usage still. Zeke was in on pass protecting. Zeke ran 40-plus routes. This was all of what he was doing last year. He had to block 8 times. He had to stay in for pass protection, and he blocked pretty well. Tony Pollard didn't see a high snap share. Zeke saw the high snap share. So although he had a poor week 1, so did every other running back that faced the Bucs last year, right? Every other running back, whether it was Aaron Jones twice last year, whether it was fantastic backs like Alvin Kamara, Nick Chubb, these guys got shut down by the Bucs last year. All those guys that I just mentioned combined for less than 100 yards. So Zeke's 30 yards was basically on average with what everybody did against the best defensive line, in my opinion, in the NFL in terms of run block. Montgomery had a fine first week. You see other guys in here. Myles Gaskin only played 53% of the snaps. I'd be concerned. That's a high price point for him. Backup running back Kareem Hunt, I don't want. Darrell Henderson had a nice week 1, but not for cash. Raheem Mostert, we'll see, he's banged up. Raheem Mostert's banged up. I wonder where they put, they put Elijah Mitchell at $5,000. 19 carries over 100 yards. No real work in the passing game, as Hasty saw the only passing game usage, but he had every single touch except for 1 once you saw Raheem Mostert leave. We'll see what Mostert's status is. He's a fine waiver wire ad. We'll have the waiver wire video out later today, but he's not somebody that I'm really going out of my way to pick up a ton of, to be honest with you. So the rest of this, we're probably a little too low now. Edmonds is here. He played 40 snaps, but James Conner played 36 snaps. Those guys basically split it 50-50. Conner got more of the work on the ground. Edmonds in the receiving game, which you probably could have assumed. James White is here, saw some passing game usage. So that's probably where I'm at with running backs. We'll see what we do with the Najee Harris flex spot down here if we really want to use that. Let's just slide to defense. Texans, $2,000 versus Cleveland. Probably don't want to do that with how efficient and good Cleveland's offense looked. But Texans defense looked good against Jacksonville, at least the rookie quarterback. That gives us $4,500. We might come up to the Jets. I saw they were like 21 or 2,200. Let's go to tight end, and then we'll finish with receiver. So tight end, we have Darren Waller up here as expensive. Love him, but don't really think I can afford that here, and don't really think it's not like a Chiefs stack where you want to stack up Kelsey with his quarterback. I'm not probably going to stack against Pitt, especially Derek Carr. Kittle is here, didn't really have a lot of usage, didn't really need him to have a lot of usage until the late fourth quarter when there was onside kicks recovered and weird things. Kyle Pitts he didn't have the greatest performance. He had 7 targets. One of them was an out-of-bounds play that should have been another reception. One of them was brought back for penalty on what was like a 7-yard catch. So he was a little bit more involved than it actually seemed. Wasn't involved in the red zone in the first series, but then was involved after that. It seemed like he had to stay in block a lot more than I was hoping for in general, because this line is getting blown up by the Eagles' defensive line. $5,200, the price point comes up $800. The usage was fantastic, using the slot and out wide. He was used as a wide receiver and then put on the line to block some. So exactly what people thought. Not sure I really want to go there. Gronk, great first game. We'll see if that was just like the first game in prime time, hyped Gronk, and now they'll ease him in as O.J. Howard goes. Goddard had that touchdown. Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry are both here back-to-back in the pricing. I put a tweet out as well about their usage. Again, you can check me out on Twitter for, I would say, very good in terms of very quick and meaningful statistics. You had Jonnu Smith play 73% of the snaps, Henry 72%. Jonnu ran 19 routes and saw 5 targets. Henry 23 routes and 3 targets. So basically, these dudes are like the same thing. Jonnu obviously got a little bit more usage right there, but these guys are going to run the same amount of routes, around 20 to 24, depending on how many plays are in, and they're probably going to see 4 to 5 targets a week on a good week. You have to hope for them to score a touchdown. At these price points of $4,500, I think we can get a lot more usage and better usage than this. I keep scrolling down, and this is the guy that I want to play. I want to play Tyler Higby. Tyler Higby is by far the guy that I want to play this week in cash. He's only $4,100. I want to play him everywhere this week, to be honest with you. Matchup against Indy is a fine matchup. Higby was second on the team, only behind Cooper Kupp, with 26 routes, only 1 route behind Cooper Kupp, and he had 6 targets. 4 targets behind Kupp's 10, but 6 targets was also second on the team. He played 29% of the time out of the slot and 25% of the time out wide. I put that on Twitter. That is elite usage for a tight end. I'm putting Higby in here right now because I wanted to play him no matter what. I was hoping he wouldn't be 5K, and he's not. Mike Gesicki's here, not interested. Cook's here, not interested. Austin Hooper ran less routes than David Njoku. They used 3 tight ends pretty heavily with Harrison Bryant, so not really interested. Hayden Hurst ran a lot of routes. He ran like 25 routes, right around Kyle, a little less than Kyle Pitts, but he was heavily involved. A sleeper type player, but I'd rather go to the starter Tyler Higby. Kmet had a decent day. Gerald Everett, I don't know if I want to go here. He had 2 catches in the touchdown he had, but he ran less routes in this game than the number 1 tight end on this team, or Will Dissly, the other tight end on this team, I think it is. So I don't really want to go to Gerald Everett. I thought I would like him a lot more. I liked him last week, but the usage wasn't that encouraging. Anthony Firkser in a blowout ran more routes than I thought. He ran like 25. Tyler Conklin still fine at $3,200, still cheap. Had 4 catches for 40 yards, basically what you expect to get out of Tyler Conklin. He was running routes out there. The emergence of KJ Osborne running 47 routes for Minnesota as the wide receiver 3 probably cuts down the exact upside of Tyler Conklin being on the field and used a lot more as like the 3rd option in the passing game. Maybe now is the 4th option, which is the concern. But we add Tyler Higby and we have $4,600 left, so I like that. We get the cheap tight end, we get the really dirt cheap defense. defense. You could even upgrade it to the Jets. But Higby's here. Now we have to find our 3 receivers, maybe 4 if we take Najee out of the flex. But we're trying to secure as much touches as we can. And before we keep going to the wide receivers, this video is yet again, we are now sponsored and partnered on some of these shows with Draftkings. So I'm excited about that. And here's a message from Draftkings. Now is the time to celebrate. The second NFL Sunday season is about to kick off. And Draftkings, the official daily fantasy sports partner, is putting you in the center of the weekend's action. New customers can get a free shot at $1 million top prize with their first deposit by using the code SAL. Get in on the action now. And here's all that you have to do. Download the DraftKings app now and use the code SAL. Simple. My name, SAL. DraftKings app in any store. It's very easy to find. You get the crown and the D in there. This week, new customers can get that free shot at $1 million top prize and compete for millions of dollars in prizes. That good old Millie Maker across the contest. Enter code SAL to get a free shot at that $1 million top prize. That is code SAL on DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. Minimum $5 required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details. So there's our friends over at DraftKings. I appreciate it. If it is your first time, if you want to use that code SAL, keeps the sponsors happy, keeps them a part of the show. It's about time we got DraftKings up on the show since we're talking about them nonstop. Let's get into now the wide receivers. So now we go to wide receiver. We scroll up. We're not going to be able to afford an expensive one, at least in this build. But Hopkins is there against Minnesota. Great matchup. Obviously stack worthy if you want to play Kyler in those stacks. Steph Diggs, exact same thing for his. All these guys up here, if I'm playing them in GPPs, I'm probably stacking them up, or I just have a ton of money left over because there's value. I doubt there's as much value as last week. Ridley had the hot start, 3 catches on the first drive, only finished with 5 catches overall in that game. Jefferson was not locked down by any means, but it was Adam Thielen who had the 2 touchdowns, continues to score. Tyler Lockett, big first week. There's Thielen. Keenan Allen is somebody that I'm going to want to play in GPPs. I mean, Keenan Allen last week, he was our That One Dude in the That One Dude Saturday video. If you're not familiar with that series, it's lower owned guys at 5% or lower for GPPs that have a chance to pop off. We had Keenan Allen in there. We had Miles Sanders, 130 total yards in there, which was nice. Conklin at 2% owned was completely fine for 8+ points at a tight end position at 2,900. You take that. But Keenan Allen ran 40 routes. He had 9 catches for 100 yards exactly. Got you the bonus right there. Had over 20 fantasy points on DraftKings and 12 targets. Keenan Allen continues to dominate. Keenan Allen against Dallas now is a smash spot. This game, I don't care what happens throughout the week. I'm not getting off of it. My main lineups this week will be some form of a stack between these two teams. I don't know if it's Herbert or Dak yet. I don't know how many guys, if it's going to be 4, 5, or 6, but I'm going to have this entire game stacked up in my main lineup. It's as simple as that. The over-under, I don't see it yet, but it's probably going to be 55 plus. I think it's like probably close at 55. I think it opened around 53. The problem is if I try and put Keenan Allen in here, we only have $3,400 left over. But now that I'm saying this, I haven't seen Amari or Lamb, which makes no sense. So there's Amari at 6,800. Amari Cooper at 6,800 after coming off of like a 17-target game where he was the number 1 receiver in football last year when Dak was healthy. He's now, after 1 week, the number 1 receiver right there with Tyreek Hill after this week. It just doesn't make any sense to me. $6,800 Amari Cooper should be $7,800. I like Amari Cooper. Debo's here. He had a fine game. Great. He had like a 48% target share week 1 on limited attempts from Garoppolo. Godwin's here. That's a fair price. Deontay. CeeDee Lamb at 6,400 again, had 15 targets last week, had 2 or 3 drops in that game, so could have had an even bigger day. Found the end zone early. $400 less than Amari. It's just so easy to stack both these guys up with Dak as well in cash. We'll take that even. So let's put CeeDee Lamb in here because he's a little cheaper, but I like Amari more. I'll say that right now. But he's a little bit cheaper. It only gives us 3,700. So let's see what that leaves us with here. Julio is 63. Allen Robinson in a bounce back spot. Not as tough of a defense against Cincinnati. 62 is more than fair. Evans, bounce back spot, maybe will be very low owned. Mike Williams had the big day. Cooper Kupp's here and Antonio Brown at 6K each. I'll be interested to see which one picks up ownership. Brown had the big day on Thursday Night Football in primetime, has the bigger name. Kupp had 10 targets, though, also in a primetime game, and found the end zone, was left kind of wide open, somewhat schemed open. I think I prefer here Cooper Kupp to Antonio Brown, but it's pretty close. It's kind of a coin flip. Brown and GPPs, I would say, but maybe it comes down to your overall lineup. If I put Kupp in this lineup, how much money we have? We have $1,500 left over. So that's definitely not going to do it. But let's just see through what we can actually change in some of these lineups. Maybe we can let's get Najee out of here for now and see what that leaves us per lineup. That leaves us 3,900. Maybe we can find one value play at the wide receiver position, like in the 4K range. So we get down now to the 5K. Robert Woods is there. He found the end zone late to salvage his day. T. Higgins is just 5,400. Comes up in price, but we'll see if he's healthy. He was looking good before getting hurt. Corey Davis had the 2-touchdown game, led the team in routes run. Jacoby Myers should have a better matchup. Jamar Chase is here at 5K flat. I kind of want to play Jamar Chase, but I don't think we have enough money. Jamar Chase over 100 yards. T. Higgins got hurt, but he looked completely fine. Beat his man on a deep pass and got there. We have $2,800 left over. That's probably not going to be enough for us. We might have to go off of, so let's do this. Let's just try and nickel and dime our way back into this. We'll go off of Dak to try and get the Jalen Hurts, which should at least get us to the minimum. So that gets us to $3,100. So is there going to be a $3,000 receiver this week that can still get us there? We're probably going to have to stay on Lamb over Amari Cooper, at least in this lineup. Always can come down from McCaffrey, right? If we come down from McCaffrey to Alvin Kamara, that saves us $1,100, gets us $4,200 to spend here, which is probably what I'll do, but we'll see if we can find a value receiver Let's see what else is in the 5K range. Marvin Jones is still there. Solid, right? He found that late touchdown that saved my lineups. Michael Pittman really struggled week 1. So did Darnell Mooney in a tough matchup. But Pittman struggled week 1. Pascal just found the end zone twice. So people are probably going to be lower on him in GPPs. Price comes up $200. Pascal now more expensive. I think that's fine. Callaway showed us that he's an undrafted free agent. 2 targets in a game where there wasn't much usage overall. Waddle's here. Any other? Where's Will Fuller this week? Is Will Fuller? Oh, there he is. $4,800. Will Fuller returns against Buffalo. That's a GPP play that many people will probably forget about since he was suspended week 1. Rondale Moore, I'm not as excited about. He had those 4 catches for like 68 yards. That's fine. He had the one big play, but for the most part, wasn't used. By far and away, Christian Kirk's the wide receiver 3 in this team. By far and away, wide receiver 2 is A.J. Brown. Only 14 routes for Rondale Moore. It's not that encouraging. Obviously, he's a rookie that will come on, but it's not that encouraging, at least right now, for me to get there. Some cheap receivers. There's A.J. Green, who saw a lot of usage in 6 targets. Not bad. Brian Edwards plays tonight. We'll see what he can do. Where is Henry Ruggs? I haven't seen Ruggs down here. Is Ruggs really this cheap? Maybe he's right around the 4K range. So we keep going. I don't think we're going to find Elijah Moore. He only had that 1 catch for negative yards, but he did see downfield air yards. He did run a lot of routes, which was encouraging to see. Mims basically got nothing. I don't know if we're going to find a cheap receiver that I really... almost Terrace Marshall was almost in play. KJ Osborne, who I talked about, ran 47 routes, saw 7 targets in that first game. Actually looked really good, had a good preseason. We just missed on being able to afford him because I think, we only have 3,100. So let's close this up here. We have 32. Nico Collins was number 2 on the team, by far the number 2 receiver in routes and snaps for Houston, ahead of Chris Conley. 31. So who can we afford? Jakeem Grant, Chris Conley? No, they're not used. Zay Jones? No, it's like a wide receiver 5. Jalen Guyton ran 37 routes. This could be an interesting name in that Dallas and Chargers, which should be a high-scoring game. He ran 37 routes or 35 routes in that game. He saw 5 targets, 3 catches for 49 yards. So maybe Jalen... Oh, wait, hold on. Is this Cedric? Yeah, this is Cedric Wilson. All right, there we go. Easy. So for purposes of like making your lineups proper, I'll take out Cedric Wilson and put CeeDee Lamb in the late game because they're the late game next week. So let's put CeeDee Lamb in our flex. And let's put Cedric Wilson, who I was mentioning here. I thought Cedric Wilson, I just forgot, but at the beginning of the show, we said that Cedric Wilson, I thought he was going to be like, I think he should be $5,000. I thought the price would come up to $4,200. Cedric Wilson is $3,100. If you don't know who Cedric Wilson is, Michael Gallup is out. Cedric Wilson is about to be the wide receiver 3 on this team, and it's by far and away the wide receiver 3 on this team. Noah Brown and Simeon Foku, the rookie. Noah Brown did not run any routes in that game. Cedric Wilson came in and ran 22 routes, and he saw 3 targets. So he caught 3 balls for 24 yards and basically a half of football when Michael Gallup was out. So if you can give at $3,100, if Cedric Wilson even just has 4 catches for 40 yards, that's a smash. But there's a real chance Cedric Wilson, who had big plays last year, big plays against the Seahawks for a touchdown. He's a solid receiver. They've given him contracts. So if he goes out there, Cedric Wilson, and likely runs, in even if it's just a 50-point game, not a massively high game, 30, 35 routes in this game, they're going to run a lot of 3 wide receiver sets. He's probably going to see 5 to 6 targets in this game. He probably brings in 4 to 5 of those targets, and based on his average depth of target, you're looking at like a 50, 60-yard game. Cedric Wilson is a smash at 3,100. Yeah, I mean, this is just the best cash line I think you can build right now based on what I'm seeing. You can obviously exchange Cooper Kupp if you wanted to. Clear things you can do here. Cooper Kupp for Antonio Brown. You can lower McCaffrey if you wanted to, and you can go McCaffrey down to Alvin Kamara. You can go down to Najee Harris and secure those 20-plus opportunities and then pay up somewhere else. But I feel good about Higby. The Texans defense obviously stinks, but it's fine. It makes the rest of the lineup work. So that's an interesting cash build. So there's that. And we can quickly just pivot now to what a GPP build would look like with either Dak Prescott. And let's just try it with Dak Prescott. The Dak Prescott build with, let's take out McCaffrey. I don't know if we'll be able to afford him. We could keep Tyler Higby in there. We'll take out Jamar Chase. We'll take out Cooper Kupp. We can keep Cedric Wilson and Joe Mixon in there just because they're somewhat cheap. But let's just do this. Let's just like put Amari in here. And ways to get unique. Let's like triple stack the Cowboys. So you triple stack the Cowboys. You have 3 of their receivers. I'm fine doing that when one of them is 3,100. They won't affect each other because if Dak throws for 350 yards and Cedric Wilson only has like 60 yards, but he has 4 catches at 3,100, that's completely fine in my opinion. But now you have $6,900 left over. So I mean, you can just do something easy. You can go like Keenan Allen here at 7K in the flex. That's your run back option. And then at $6,800, you play somebody at the running back position. You pay up for your defense. At the running back position at $6,800, you have James Robinson, you have Najee Harris is there, Zeke, but I'm not going to go overall onslaught. But here's like a way. You can go Najee Harris, and you can then pay up at defense, which I don't normally do, but paying up literally to $2,500, nothing crazy. Buffalo, the Colts versus the Rams. I mean, what's in here? You have Philadelphia, who just had a ton of sacks versus San Francisco. We can just put that in here for now. So, I mean, there's like a full-on game stack, right? So that's an interesting type of a lineup build as well for me. Obviously, I'm not really sold on this triple stack right here, but I don't hate it, but I'm not sold on that right now. You run it back with Keenan Allen. I'd probably rather get 2 guys from the opposite side, maybe try and get Austin Eckler in here instead of one of these guys, Austin Eckler instead of Joe Mixon, whatever it might be. But that's where I'm at. That is the first look. That is a first look. Just quick pivot to GPP. It was kind of an easy lineup to build. The cash was a little bit more difficult, but at the end of the day, it's Jalen Hurts again. It's Joe Mixon again with the opportunities. It's the Cowboys receivers and Cooper Kupp, who saw 10 opportunities and now has a good quarterback. It's Tyler Higby, who saw nice opportunities, and probably if the game stays closer next week against the Colts, sees even more opportunities in a solid matchup. So yeah, I think that it's pretty fair for a first look lineup there. So thank you. If you enjoyed this, if you enjoyed watching these first look lineups, let me know in the comments who was the first guy that you saw and you were like, yes, I'm clicking that guy, I'm playing that guy no matter what. Before you go, if you would like to like this video, I greatly appreciate it. And be sure to check out the sponsor of the show, which is Draftkings now. So be sure to check them out using that code SAL when you sign up over there, if it is indeed your first time over there. Thank you for tuning in today, everybody. I appreciate it. We'll have more content as the week goes on. Obviously, we already have the Monday Night Football stuff that we did, but we're going to be having the Thursday Night Football. We'll have a waiver wire video, we'll have a live streams, and more DFS picks on Friday. A lot of stuff. That one do it on Saturday. So be sure to make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Go down on Patreon to get all the access to all my tools and projections and ranks and ownership and the optimizer and all that down below, the Discord access. I'll see you all in the next one.